Yo, what's going on, guys? Membro here, back at it with another college football weekly podcast. Today I want to do kind of a little game of legit or not with SEC teams. The SEC, obviously new faces with Oklahoma and Texas. Because we have so many SEC teams in this AP poll, I want to go through and kind of give my grade. Are they legit or are they kind of fraudulent? So far we've seen some of the teams kind of look a bit fraudulent with losses here and there, but I just want to go through everything. As you can see right here, top 5 teams, 4 of the teams are in the SEC. And you go to even top 10, Missouri drops out of the top 10, but before then it was Missouri, Ole Miss, Tennessee, Alabama, Georgia, Texas, about 6 teams in the top 10. Now there's about 5 teams in the top 10 still. Dominant is the SEC, and it's going to be interesting to see how conference play all works out with all these teams. But I just want to go through kind of each of these SEC teams. Obviously there's a lot of talent everywhere on every team, and I kind of feel like every team probably thinks they got a shot at the playoff. But let's give themselves some grades so far. Missouri, who barely beat Vanderbilt. I don't know if we can say they're fraudulent yet, but we got to keep a watch on Missouri because that game against Vanderbilt, overtime game, they escape. Basically, they escape on a missed kick from Vanderbilt in double overtime. That's very concerning, and I agree with the AP pollsters to drop them out of the top 10 after that performance. So we'll see how they do against even tougher competition. Tennessee, they get a huge win going to Oklahoma, getting a win there. The defense was dominant. The one thing I will say, though, with Tennessee is they weren't really able to take advantage of the Oklahoma turnovers all that much. They were also sloppy offensively. You look at that game, it was more of just, I think, Oklahoma's defense being really bad. They bring in a backup quarterback because Jackson Arnold had a really rough night. Tennessee, though, nevertheless gets the win. Are they legit? I think this is another one where we have to see more from them. We have to see them play Georgia. We have to see them play Alabama. If they want to be a top 5 team, they got to play like it. They didn't really play like it. Even though they do get the win, they need to be better, especially against some of these other top SEC teams. That brings me to Georgia. I'm giving them the benefit of the doubt. They sneak away with one against Kentucky. There's a little concern there, but I feel like there's always one game on Georgia's schedule like a Kentucky game is usually like a Kentucky game. They'll really have to shape up against Alabama. That's coming up, I believe, next week. Over to Arkansas, they've beaten up on bad teams, and they lost to Oklahoma State in a real back and forth kind of thrill. They really should have had that game, though. You look at their record now, they're 3-1, okay, but I might see them going 7-5, 6-6 so far from what we've seen. LSU, I think, we can say they're legit and they can possibly be in the conversation in the SEC and maybe for a playoff spot. You saw how, I think USC is a lot better than we thought they were. They really contended against Michigan. But back to LSU, they got a lot of talent everywhere, and I think they can definitely get some upsets here and there against like your Alabamas of the world. Texas A&M, I think they're frauds. I don't think they should be in the top 25. You look at that loss to Notre Dame. We know now Notre Dame isn't as good as we really thought, and the Texas A&M offense has been very disappointing. They barely beat Bowling Green this last Saturday. I think they really should be dropped out of the top 25. I think they're kind of fraudulent. You look at South Carolina, they beat a Kentucky team that really put Georgia to the brink. So, I would give their grade, underrated grade for South Carolina. Going to Florida, they finally got a win last week. But you look at they're 2-2. They're fraudulent. I don't know. Billy Napier needs to be gone. I think we all know that at this point. Moving on to Ole Miss, they have been dominant in all their easy games. I think this is another case of we need to see more from Ole Miss. We need to see them tested. But from what we have seen from them, from their cupcake games early, they have dominated. Can they be, that 10-2 playoff team that a lot of people are talking about? Texas obviously is legit. They went into the Big House, dominated, And then they dominate with their backup Arch Manning. They're easy #1 team. They got 2 Heisman candidates at quarterback. You know, there's no other team in the country that can say that. Going down to Alabama, I talked about it a little bit with the Georgia, but Bama, I think, is legit. This Kalen DeBoer and Jalen Milroe combination, I think, is perfect, and we're seeing that. And Georgia better be freaking ready. They're going into Tuscaloosa. We've seen their record versus Alabama the past years and years under Kirby Smart. They've only won, I believe, 1 game, and that was the national championship. But all the other times they've played Alabama, it has been a loss. They're going into Tuscaloosa. I know it's not Nick Saban anymore, but it's still Bama. Jalen Milroe's got them working well, and they got a great receiving core, still great defense. Everything about Alabama so far has looked mostly the same. They also got kind of tested against USF this year as well. So we'll have to see. Everyone's going to be freaking excited for that one. And if I have to give an early prediction, I think Alabama is going to really push Georgia. From what, if you ask me this beginning of the season, I say Georgia's going undefeated. But from what I've seen from Georgia and then what I've seen from Alabama, I think you could see an Alabama victory in Tuscaloosa next Saturday. Oklahoma, they just got some things to figure out offensively. Their defense held them in the game against Tennessee. The defense did very, very good. I don't think you can say season over for Oklahoma. Obviously, they got one of the toughest schedules in the SEC. That's kind of also why I predicted them. They're not going to be there. I don't remember what I specifically predicted them, but I might have done like 7-5, 8-4 type of deal because they have such a tough schedule, and we've seen the offense isn't quite there. Auburn, they're garbage. Cal, they lost to Cal and everyone's freaking out there, but actually Cal seems kind of decent this year, but Auburn is still just very bad. Vanderbilt, I think they'll be better than expected. I think you can see a bowl game for Vanderbilt this year. We saw them upset Virginia Tech. Virginia Tech's not that great, but we saw them push a Missouri team who came into it ranked, I believe, number 6 or 7 to the brink. They were a field goal away. They were so close with Missouri. That offense was there for Vanderbilt. So, don't sleep on Vanderbilt. They could come into your place. You could go to their place and they could upset you. Definitely, I think teams need to be paying attention to Vanderbilt after that Missouri game. Mississippi State, they're bottom of the barrel in the SEC. I think we kind of know that at this point. Kentucky, who is 0-2 now in conference play, losing to South Carolina, but then they pushed a Georgia team to the brink. So I think it's we have to see more of Kentucky. Can they turn around? It's definitely possible. They just have to really, at least defensively, play like they did against Georgia a couple weeks back. But yeah, that's kind of a review here of the SEC. I think the top teams still, it's got to be Texas, Georgia, Alabama, and then you got a tier down, and then it's Ole Miss and Tennessee. Maybe you can throw in a Missouri, I think. But when you have a top tier, it's Texas, Bama, Georgia. That is the top tier. I think those are the 3 teams that are going to be battling for that SEC championship. I think those 3 teams are, I'm willing to say, yeah, guaranteed they're getting into the playoff, whether that be winning the conference championship or, having 1 or 2 losses. It's going to be really, really wild, though. It's going to, as this SEC goes on year after year, it's going to be harder and harder to have an undefeated season. You look at Georgia. I think Georgia's kind of got the best chance. Maybe Texas, the way that they have been looking, but obviously they got lots of tests. But you got number 2 playing up against number 4 coming up next week. That is classic big heavyweight SEC battles that we love to see. And let me know down below, who do you got winning the big game, Georgia versus Alabama? We are on the road to 1,000 subscribers, so if you are liking the content, make sure to go down and subscribe and give the video a like as well. All right, thank you guys for watching. Peace.